Welcome along to our very first Essentials webinar for 2026. My name is Ra Williams and I'm going to be running through today's webinar with you. Very excited to have you along, and we've got a whole bunch of fantastic content to help get you jump started with your year and hopefully make the most out of the software as such. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping around today's webinar. This is going to be great for both new and existing users of CAS 360. So whether you've joined a firm and you are looking at taking over some of the core duties, or maybe an existing user that is just wanting to find out if there's any other areas within the software that you could be utilizing further to help streamline and benefit the firm's processes. Now, if you do have any questions along the way, I've got a couple of great panelists with me today there. So do feel free to use the Zoom chat box to put through any questions, and they'll be happy to answer them during today's session. It is also roughly about a 3-hour webinar or so, and do note that it is going to be recorded. So if you have to step away or you wanted to check back over any particular part of it, do know that you will receive a recording of this, and it will also be up on our YouTube once the team has finished editing that and getting it all nice and snazzy for you. We will also be having about a 10-minute tea break roughly halfway through, so you'll definitely have the chance to stretch your legs, get some tea, and anything else you might want to do on that break. Now, what will also be done is I'll have one of our panelists go ahead and share the CAS 360 Essential Training Manual link, and that'll just be in the chat box there for you to access. It's basically the base guide of the topics and everything we'll be covering there today. It's obviously all sort of blank content within that guide. So it's all basically the same. You'll just notice that the exact details, company name or contact name, for example, might vary a little bit, but it's all still the same processes as such. Now, in terms of today's topics, we're going to be covering a whole bunch of great stuff, and that's going to include how basically you can get started with CAS 360, the process of sort of connecting your agent to company's office and having that integration take place if maybe you're a new agent at the firm and you wish to do so, as well as obviously how you can be invited into the software, core areas such as the homepage and our navigation tabs that are available, our handy dandy smart alerts that'll help you keep on top of anything and track everything that needs actioning or any alerts that have come through to the firm, as well as our core processes such as the annual turn workflow, showing you how you can also process director or office holder changes as well as shareholder changes. One of my favorite features as well being the likes of multiple changes that might affect multiple companies as such, our document screen and how you can go about lodging those transactions through to company's office, our trust module, as well as a few other areas such as the reports available to you within CAS 360, some of the settings, and of course our AML compliance workflow, including some of the identity verification tools that are available for firms to use, including our very own BGL ID. Fantastic. So without further ado, let us go ahead and get started. So to access CAS 360, do note that you will need to first be invited in to access the software. And basically this can be done with those with either administrator or account owner user rights at the firm. And I will also be running over this too shortly. So if you are looking at inviting in some new people to use the software at your firm, this will be a great step. And what you can do is you can access the software on our website via www.bglcorp.co.nz and then simply choosing the login button and hitting CAS 360. From there, it'll prompt you to log in with your details. And if you've been set up across multiple firms, they will appear here like this. You can simply go ahead and select the firm you're working on and choose to head into CAS 360. Now, for those of you who might be existing users, you will have also noticed that we've had a fresh facelift on CAS 360. It's all looking nice and snazzy for the year 2026, but basically it's all still the exact same wonderful software it's always been. It's just been slightly revamped to give it a nice fresh look and feel. Now, the first area we'll look to go over is, as mentioned, basically connecting CAS 360 with the company's office, which you'll see you can access that via the Getting Started section there. So this will be very similar to what a new user would see once they've been invited in and they've logged into CAS 360. Basically, you'll have the option to choose importing data, and from here, you'll select your jurisdiction, and you can then go on to continue to company's office. This will then bring us to the company's office RealMe login site where you can go ahead and input your details, and you'll then be able to enable the integration between CAS 360 and company's office. I'm obviously just not going to be filling that in for now, but that will allow you to go ahead and then integrate the two, and that's fantastic because we'll bringing over all the core information around your companies. But do know that if you are an existing user, you can always access your authorized companies list on the main screen by hitting Prepare Agent Form and choosing this option here. You'll then be able to select your agent and hit Request. And then this is basically that same screen you'll see once you've connected Companies Office and CAS 360 together. You'll be able to see all the companies you are authorized for, and you can access this at any time. So if you end up taking over any new clients or anything moving forward, you can always come through here and import them into CAS 360 as such. Now, any of those that are already in your license will basically look like this, as highlighted in green and say already added. But for any that are not in your license, it'll be highlighted in blue and say ready for import. And all you'll simply need to do is tick the ones you would like to bring in and hit import companies. Once you've done that, CAS 360 will go ahead and retrieve all those core details, including company addresses, current shareholders and shareholder balances, current directors, and all the information associated with that you would see up on Company's Office, which is fantastic and will hopefully allow you to work in the one place moving forward. So that's a little bit about basically how you can go about connecting CAS 360 with the Company's Office. Let's go ahead and check out our main screen here a little further. So I'm just going to start off in the top left on this navigation bar you've got here, or the global search bar. You can basically search for any company or contact you might have in mind, and you'll be able to see that is then going to pull up with any of those options that you've typed in. Moving along from there, we've got our nice orange community button. Let's go ahead and check that out further. This is essentially a forum for CAS 360 users such as yourself to check out posts, create posts, maybe check in and see how others are doing a particular process, or if you had any questions and wanted to see what the wider community were doing things like, you can always use that and start a new post or check out some of the existing ones there too. Further along to that, we've got this wonderful feedback button. As always, we always encourage you to send through any suggestions or improvements you think that would be great to see in the future, that we might be able to add to CAS 360 to enhance the entire experience. But at the same time, you're also more than welcome to let us know if there's any new features or updates that you are really a big fan of, or even a cool process that's really helped you. We love hearing about it, and you can simply type in your comments here and hit send once done. Just next to that, you've then got the notification bell. This is basically where you can track all your notifications and items happening within CAS 360. If you've got digital signing integrations also enabled, you'll also get your digital signing integration notifications through here, but it'll also basically let you know of any downloads you've done as well as any other items too. This is broken up in a couple of sections. As you can see, you've got all alerts, maybe the ones that are marked as unread, and you can go ahead and change that status if you're across it. But what you can also do is check out the settings and a few other options, but I'll come back to this one because I'd like to spend a little bit more time on this so you can be familiar with all the options there. Now, we do have some wonderful help resources as highlighted in this little question mark or the help section. Firstly, we've got the New Zealand Help or Knowledge Base, which is a great resource. It's full of all of our help articles and how-to guides that can basically assist you with all the core processes within CAS 360. And do note that this is where you can access the CAS 360 dictionary, where the text codes to customize the email and document templates can be found too, which is something we'll be touching on later on in this webinar. In terms of the articles and such though, if there's a particular process you might be curious about, you can simply jump in here, search that up, and you will then be able to see all the different types of help articles we've got on that particular transaction, and it's got all the details that you might need to assist with this. Now, at the very bottom of most of the transaction guides, such as this one here, you'll also be able to see all the forms that CAS 360 will help prepare for that particular transaction. So if you're wondering maybe, hey, what other supporting documents or forms will this transaction create? You'll always get a nice little summary of that found at the bottom of those ones there. Now, speaking of other help resources, we've also got the likes of the training course section where you can go ahead and register for webinars like this, but it's also the same place that you can sign up to and attend our in-person events when they're hosted throughout the year. And of course, if you're looking to find out on any of the latest feature releases, you can always check out the new feature notes within this section too. Now, we obviously also have our support team on hand to assist you, which you can access using the live chat option here. Now, what you will notice is you can actually go ahead and type in any questions you've got. So I've actually got a couple of ones I've inputted here. I've asked if CAS 360 can help with registered office address changes, and our little AI will go ahead and basically draw that answer based upon our knowledge base articles and give you an answer as well as a few help guides that can assist with this process as such. Now, if that doesn't answer your question or you still feel a little bit stuck on something, it will ask if it's helpful. And if you feel like you need more assistance, you can hit no and then choose to speak to one of our support team members who will then be able to assist you. Do know that they are based in the Australian office or the headquarters, so they will be active in New Zealand from about 11 a.m. through to about 7. They're 9 to 5 as such. But doesn't mean you can't put through any questions or help that you might need, because as soon as they're online, they'll be able to jump onto that and get in touch to assist you with whatever you might need. The good thing with this though is it will track your history as such, so you can ask as many questions as you want, and if it's been something you've asked previously, you'll be able to go ahead and find that as such alongside the answers and guides for it. Now, if you do run into any technical issues or there's something you feel stuck with that you wish the team to look into further and think it might be worth them delving into, you can hit that phone icon to log a support call. Similar to the live chat, you can basically type in if it's in relation to a particular query and go ahead and search for that. Maybe you're having questions around a share transaction or got stuck with the process. Here we can see it's referenced a few of our help guides for this, but if you are needing help, you can always choose to hit this log a support call option. From there, you can choose how you would like the team to get in touch, whether that's via email or phone call. Input your phone number as such for them to get in touch with you, and then choose the problem statement that might be closest in relation to what you might be facing or needing help with. We've got a whole bunch of options, as you can see. And what I would always suggest is go ahead and turn on this toggle to allow support to access your account. This just basically means they'll be able to literally access your license, see what you're seeing, and help troubleshoot any issues much, much faster. There is a wee text box that you can also input any particular comments, let the team know where you might be having a bit of an issue or needing more help with. And screenshots are also able to be dragged and dropped in here too, which is always a big help because we know it can be a little bit tricky to explain a particular item where a picture is quite literally 1,000 words. Once done, go ahead and hit send, and that'll make its way through our team, and they'll get in touch as soon as they're able to. Now, I won't touch on what the sign out button does. It basically does what it sounds like. But just next to that, you do have the app switcher icon, which is where you'll be able to access our integrations, learning channel, and set up other users or check your users if you've got account owner or administrator user rights. I definitely encourage you to check out the learning channel further, as it's very similar to today's webinar. It's just a whole bunch of great little short courses that cover all the content within CAS 360. So if you're unable to attend the webinar or wanted to check something out further, the learning channel is a fantastic place to do so. Our integrations area is also where you can go ahead and enable your integrations. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and check that out. We've got some fantastic core integrations with the likes of Zero Practice Manager, some also fantastic digital signing integrations with the likes of ViewSign, Adobe Sign, DocuSign, and more recently, Please Sign. And I will also be showing you how the digital signing integration does work via ViewSign in today's webinar. So if you're considering that or wanting to see how that looks, you'll definitely get a good feel for it today. Now in the top right area, you do also have your little icon there. What you can choose to do is either use the user section or hit your profile icon there. I'll just go ahead and choose users, because this is basically where you'll be able to go ahead and invite in any new people you wish to use the software. It's also where you can go ahead and update any of your details if those details do change or you need to update them. But basically, either on the invitations tab or the user manager section, you'll be able to go ahead and invite in new users. As you can see, it's super straightforward. You just need to input the email for them to access this with, their details, and what type of access you would like them to have within CAS 360. And of course, you can invite multiple people in at the one time. It's a very nice, easy setup process. And after that's done, it'll send an email through to them that will prompt them to set up their login details to access CAS 360, and they'll be all good to go moving forward. Now, underneath the user manager section, you will also be able to see all the invitations you've sent out and when they last accessed the software alongside their current user rights. But if you are wanting to maybe update or customize the types of user rights particular staff members might have, you can always choose role settings. And from here, you can actually go ahead and check out what the different settings are based on those roles. Now, don't forget, you can also choose to set up a new role, and that will let you set up a custom role. So if there's maybe something that is in between some of the current roles that we've got there, and you didn't want to adjust that one there, as maybe it's for a staff member that doesn't use it too often or is only focused on particular transactions, or even the likes of interns who maybe you don't want them to be able to edit particular information, this is exactly how you can go about doing so, and is always available for you to access. Now, jumping back to CAS 360, that's hopefully going to give you a little bit more of an idea on the help resources and navigation bar up the top there. But as mentioned, I did want to circle back to our notifications bell. So as discussed, you can access all alerts, any that you might be yet to see, but you can also choose to expand this by hitting See All Messages, and this will bring you to the messages section on the left-hand side, which can also be used to access this screen. And within the inbox, you'll be able to see any incoming notifications, especially for the likes of digital signing, where it will let you know once something's been signed off, or if it's been rejected, it'll also let you know, such as this one here. But it'll give you all those core details about what date and time that took place and for which company it's in relation to. You've got your outbox, which is anything you've sent out, and it will also highlight if the email has been delivered. You can even go ahead and view that email itself that made its way out and resend that out if necessary too. Now you do have the pending outbox, which is basically where you'll see if you've got any pending document reminders in the future there, and you've got a few filters that allow you to see this, basically any that are scheduled for the day, week, or even month ahead. The ID verification section is basically where you'll be able to see the likes of all your BGL ID verifications that are either taking place, have been completed, or are still in the process of being verified as such. And of course, you've always got those advanced filters on the left-hand side, which is also applied to the inbox and outbox as such. Now, another thing I would like to point out is you do have the options to check out the settings area. And from here, you can actually go ahead and set up email reminders. So you'll be able to set up email reminders based on the different toggles here. Maybe you would like to be notified about any annual returns that are due, any annual returns where the date has passed, or any of those other options we've got listed here as such. And the great news is you can fully tailor this to come through to you whenever best suits. So it's going to make sure to hit your inbox at the best day, time, as well as option that you would prefer to set it up as. Once done though, do just be sure to hit save, of course. Awesome. So I'll just jump back into our company screen there as we'll cover some of our other alerts we've also got available there for you. So within your company screen, you do have your smart alerts. That's these ones here you'll see on your company screen. And basically it breaks it down into 3 different areas. The first one being your annual return alert, which is going to highlight this in a different color depending on if something's due or maybe where the date has passed as such. And don't worry, this is a test account, so you might see some strange dates in there. The middle one is a health alert, which basically lets you know of any mismatches between what's in your CAS 360 license and that up on Company's Office. This is a daily check. So as we can see here, this was checked earlier today. CAS 360 is waking up nice and early to see if there's any discrepancies. And for this, we can see 2 general details have been found that didn't line up between the CAS 360 database and the Company's Office website. And you can go to this and action it further by hitting that little arrow there. But it will also break it down across different areas. So maybe if it's a mismatch between an address, a director, or shareholder, it'll always let you know what that looks like as such. Now, lastly, we've got our compliance alert, which will alert you if you've turned on the compliance workflow and when you might be having the next review due, or if you've inputted a driver's license against an individual. You'll also get notifications for when the identity document has expired, as we can see it has for this one here. Once again, you've got those little quick links to be able to take you straight through to it. So if you need to action that, you'll be able to do so nice and easily. Now, as per most of our other screens, we've always got those advanced filters on the left-hand side. So if you are looking to basically focus in or just wanted to check out where you might have your annual returns that are due this month, you can simply choose those options, and then that'll allow you to dig straight into that. Same applies with any that maybe where the date has now passed, or maybe you wanted to action any of the compliance alerts where the contact identity document has expired. You've got all those wonderful advanced filters to assist with this, and that also includes the health check alert as well. So that's hopefully going to give you a bit more of an idea around the notifications, as well as setting up email reminders and our smart alerts that are available there. Let's go ahead and check out the annual return process next. This can be accessed via the return section on the left-hand side here. But just before we get into this one here, I would love to point out a really helpful report that you are able to access underneath your report section, just on the bottom left-hand side. And that's going to be our annual return listing report underneath the company reports option. So if you go ahead and check this option here, what you'll be able to do is basically have it applied to all companies, or if you wanted that to be across selected companies, you can also go ahead and filter that down to a particular date range should you wish as well, or even agent. You've got a range of different settings available there for you. And of course, you can customize what you see in that actual report too. So maybe you did want it to show the partner or the manager, maybe you didn't. It's completely up to you. You'll be able to adjust that and export that out once you're ready. I'm just going to choose PDF in today's example. Here we can see, to bear in mind, I've got a bit of a information selected for this one. We've got our companies that are showing, some of that core information, a lot of labels that have been applied, so has definitely bulked it up a bit, as well as the return month and the due date and that status as such for it. So it's going to let us know where any of those that have been prepared or are still yet to be actioned. As we can see, a lot still needs doing. And basically is a nice little report to have on hand if you wanted to have that on the side and maybe work through your annual returns, as maybe you bounce in and out of a few meetings but need to get some of those returns out there and be able to easily track that as such. So coming back to a return screen, you've got, once again, all the core information right there in the middle for you. That's obviously going to list the company name, NZBN, but we do also have the return month and a comparison report, which basically is similar to the health check that takes place. It's going to let you know of any discrepancies found between the company's office and what's in your license. Now, what we do always suggest is that you only process annual returns that have passed the comparison report. Just ensures that there's nothing you need to maybe check out further. No one's changed their address and forgot to inform the firm about it. And everything should be able to go through without any worries of it being rejected due to the information not lining up. Now, you do obviously have more filters on the left-hand side, as we do for most of our screens there. Once again, if you just want to action any that have passed straight off the bat, maybe you're just looking at working on what's due, maybe you just want to filter it down or see what's ahead for the year, you'll definitely be able to adjust that as needed. Same applies with our comparison report. Maybe you just want to work on all that's passed and check out what's failed afterwards and follow it up as such. You've got all those wonderful options for you to be able to utilize. Now, let's actually go ahead and prepare an annual return to get familiar with that process and see what options you've got there. I'm just going to be looking at preparing the annual return for this company here, RMW Limited. So what you can do is, if you want to prepare it individually, you can choose to hit Prepare Documents. From here, this will bring us to our document production screen, where we can see we've got a few different documents that CAS 360 will generate for you. Now, if you want to preview what those look like and quite literally the final version that the client would receive, all you need to do is just simply click on it as highlighted in blue. And from here, you'll be able to see what that document looks like. So this is our solvency resolution we've got available there. This is the annual return document that lists out all the core information that we've extracted out from CAS 360, including all the current company details, if there's any ultimate holding companies, and so on, for the likes of addresses, directors, and of course shareholder information too. Now for this one here, I have got the signing line turned on, and we can see that it's currently listed to Barden, who is one of the directors, but we can actually go ahead and customize these documents with the click of a few buttons, and we'll check that out shortly. Lastly, this is our cover letter that we've also toggled on. Basically lists out a nice little letter if you wanted to send that through. But do remember that if there's any particular document you might not wish to send out, you can simply turn that off. So maybe we didn't want to have the cover letter, maybe we only want to have the annual return and solvency resolution, or just the annual return document. Just use that toggle to turn it off or on as you see fit. Now, anytime you see that pen icon, it just means that there's a signing line on that document, as we saw for the solvency resolution and the annual return document. You can actually go ahead and customize this though by hitting the options button or the three dots. And from here, you can actually go ahead and change over the form signatory should you wish. Maybe Barden's out of the country and I need Clifford to take care of this. Just like that, you can do so. If you didn't want the signing line, you can simply use that toggle to turn it off. And once you've done so, that'll remove the pen icon and there will no longer be a signing line for anyone to sign off on. In this case though, I will leave it as is, as I'm actually going to be looking to send this off, and I'll show you how that actually looks. Down the bottom there, you will also see the document template. So if you've set up any templates, this is where you'll be able to choose to change them over. I have actually got one that I've pre-prepared earlier, and we'll go ahead and change that over and hit save once we're happy with everything. Now, as mentioned, I am going to be using digital signing in today's webinar, and as we can see here, the pen is highlighted in green. Just means that it's enabled for digital signing. If you are using digital signing and maybe you have a couple of clients that don't use digital signing, you can always choose to hit that pen icon and that'll turn off digital signing. Or if it is a client that uses digital signing and you've got it enabled, click it, and once it's highlighted as green, it's all good to go. Now let's actually go ahead and view that document now that I've changed the template over, as well as the director to sign off on. Here we can see it now looks quite a bit different. I've jazzed up the font, added a nice little watermark in the background there, and made it a little bit more appropriate to the BGL firm branding, if you will. This time round though, when we go ahead and take a look at the signing line, we can see it's now listed as Clifford to sign off on. So really easy to be able to make any necessary changes that you see fit. Basically from here, we are now good to send that off. And what you will be able to do is just simply hit that send all button. But do remember, if you've maybe got the client in Office with you, you can always hit that download button and print that off to have them sign off on it or pass that over to them in person. And a common option that I do hear a lot about as well is the option to be able to upload any additional documents that you may wish to send to the client if you're sending them off. Is using that upload button, and you can attach the likes of invoices or anything else you feel that you want to go out to the client alongside the annual return document. Now we'll just go ahead and hit send all, and this is then going to take us to our email preview screen. Here we can see who it's going to be making its way out to, and it is locked when you've got digital signing because it's only needs to go to Clifford to sign off on in this case. But if you wanted to CC in or BCC anyone, you do have the option to do so. Now we've got the little subject line, and we can preview what the email looks like that the client will be receiving. And don't forget, these are customizable too, similar to the document templates we've got on hand. So you can add in your firm's logo and update the text as needed. And we do have the text codes, which means that you don't need to set up 1,000 templates just to ensure that each template has the client's name customized. We've got these text codes that take away all that pain and hassle of you needing to do that. and we'll actually see what that looks like once that comes through to my inbox as well. But if you feel there's any additional text you need to add in, simply click in the area you wish to. And just like that, I've added in some custom text. If you feel like this needs to really stand out, you've also got the option to put that in bold, underline it, all the usual options that you would see when editing a document in Word. So quite similar to that. And basically, once you're happy with that, you can go ahead and hit send. Now, what will happen is that annual return for that company has now been removed, or that company has been removed from the return screen, as we can now no longer see RMW Limited as listed up on our return screen here. As once it's been sent off, that'll then be found in our document screen, and you can see that option just up the top there. And if you're using digital signing, the great thing is these statuses do get updated in live time as well. So now that it's been sent off, it will say few signs sent to client. Obviously lets us know the date as such, and if it's going to be due at a particular time, which is fantastic. But once it gets signed, that will then go ahead and update to few signs signed by client. And you'll even get a little notification about it too. But let's go ahead and check that out and see what that would look like on the client side or in the actual inbox of the person receiving that, for example. Here we can see we've got that one that's now come through. And as mentioned, that text code is also now listed the first name of said individual, or Clifford in this case. We can also see we've got that additional text I've added in and those changes I've made. And all they'll need to do is simply hit review documents, proceed through to sign off on this, and they can then begin that signing process. Now, just as we saw in our document production screen, they'll be able to have all those documents included. In this case, I've only got the annual return document, but it's exactly as I had made those changes. It's using that different document template, and it is listed to Clifford. And once they're happy to sign off on it, they can either hit the signing line or click start and begin that signing process. Just like that, that is now done. So as you can see, it is a really nice, quick process. Literally doesn't take any time at all. And that one will then notify us shortly, and the status will update to few signed as well. Now we'll just come back to this because there is a few other little pieces I'd like to show you. You can obviously prepare annual returns individually, but what's even more fantastic than that is you do have the option to prepare annual returns in bulk, and you can simply use either the select option there to select maybe all that have passed, or select all of them, or maybe you've got a couple that are not using digital signing and you wish to send those ones out first and then send out all the digital signing options afterwards. Simply click on the text box or checkbox right next to any of those companies. You can then go ahead and, if you want to prepare documents for this, hit that prepare document option up the top. Now we do have a nice little guardrail in place letting you know, hey, these two have actually failed the comparison report. We obviously suggest that you check this out before sending it out. In my case though, I'm just going to go ahead and proceed because it is just all test data, so I've got nothing to be worried about. But basically this will bring us to a similar looking document production screen, what's known as our document pack, where you'll be able to select what documents are going out and what template it's going to be using too. So you've got the option to be able to select those ones there and change those templates over as needed as well. Now what you will notice is there is the email template down the bottom as well. So I was just using that standard branded one that I had just sent through before, but if you've set up any additional email templates, such as I've got a few different ones here. You can always change that over, and that will then use that for that particular company. Or maybe if you want that to be applied to all of them, use that top option and it will change them over to whichever option you've selected. Once you're happy with everything, all you'll need to do is go ahead and hit deliver by email, and that'll then make its way out to the client for them to check out and sign off as such. Now, in the event that maybe you've got a couple of annual returns, so maybe let's say these two have passed the comparison report, you were in touch with the director quite literally earlier this week, and they've mentioned that nothing's changed on their end or the company's end, and you should be good to go ahead and file the annual returns as such. You can choose to skip the document production stage and go straight to lodgement. Simply hitting that option there, you'll then be able to hit proceed, confirm the agent or the authorized signatory that's going to be lodging that for this, and hit proceed once done. And then you'll be able to go ahead and file that through for both of those companies or any that you might have selected. So really nice and straightforward, really good to be able to do either individually or in bulk. And hopefully this is going to go ahead and save you loads of time and make that process so much more straightforward for both you and your clients. Now, as mentioned, we did end up sending that annual return off earlier. We can see here we got that little notification that, hey, documents for RMW Limited or that annual return have now been signed. It's even notified us as to who signed that one off. And what we will be able to do is if we head back to our document screen, we will now see that this status has been updated to view signed by client, which is fantastic. It's really going to give you a nice little heads up. And if you need, you can then go ahead and lodge that one to file this through to the company's office website. So that's going to hopefully give you a bit more of an idea around the annual return process and all the wonderful surrounding options for it. So if you haven't already customized your document templates or email templates for that, I suggest you do and be sure to adjust that as needed. And if you're not familiar with how you can access the templates, don't worry, we will also be covering that later today in today's session. So what I'm going to look at running over next is the director or office holder changes and some of the processes and options you have available there. So if you are looking at making any changes for a company and their directors, you can simply head to your company screen and go ahead and select the company you might be wanting to make those changes for. In today's example, I'll be using CAS 360-004. Once you click into that there, you'll see you've got your different information tabs up along the top. And I'm simply just going to go ahead and select officers or directors. Now, what you will notice is you'll see this past or green tick icon next to each of those individuals. You'll actually see this across quite a few of the screens, including the addresses, shareholder with the little check up the top there, and general details screen. It's basically a live check that's comparing what's in your license up against that of company's office. So if there was something that did not line up, so let's say, for example, I just quickly did that. We can now see that I've actually got a mismatch, and I've actually can see that on company's office, this is still listed as appointed, which is correct because I literally just did that just to show you what it would look like if there was something that is not lining up. Now let's actually go ahead and check out how you can go about a director appointment, for example. It's really nice and easy to do so. And all you need to do is hit that add officer or director button up the top. And for today's example, I'm just going to be working with my own contact there. It will give you a preview of the current address and birth details of said individual. Go ahead and select the director position. And of course, it CAS 360 is automatically going to jump to today's date as you're doing this transaction today. So it's going to assume that this is the best date for it. But if you need to adjust that, you can also do so. If you did want to add in any notes, you are more than welcome to use this text box to add in any comments you wish. And once you're happy with everything, just hit save. Now from here, we can see that this is added in my contact and it's got the print toggle turned on, and we are now able to prepare the forms for this transaction. So if we go ahead and click that, this is then once again going to bring us back to our document production stage, which is very similar to basically all core workflows of CAS 360. And in the top left, you always have a little snippet of that particular transaction you're doing. So here it says my contact has been appointed as the company's director for today's date. And we can see a range of different supporting documents and even required documents for this particular transaction. Now, you might be curious as to what I mean by supporting documents and required documents, but as we all know, for a director appointment, the consent and certificate of Director Form 9 is required by a company's office to be lodged when doing this type of transaction. And when we take a look at it, we can see that it is slightly outside of the branding that we allow you to do and is fully marked with the company's office logo and branding as such. So it's not obviously something you'd want to be editing, but it does automatically populate it with all the information around said contact and is able to be sent out to them without you having to look up all that information. But we do also have a range of supporting documents. So CAS 360 will once again go ahead and help generate supporting documents such as cover letter, company change summary, as well as the likes of director minutes and shareholder minutes or resolutions. And you do get a few other options there, including the register of officers. So these ones don't need to be lodged to company's office, but for your own record keeping purposes, as well as maybe value adding to your client services, you can send these all through to your client should you wish. And of course, for the record keeping purposes side of things, we ensure that the register is now updated with any transactions you're inputting there. As we can see for my contact, this has now been added onto our historical register as such. And as mentioned, if you ever want to preview or check out what any of those other documents look like, just go ahead and click on it. We've got a nice little company change summary here that's advising of the new company director that we are adding in alongside all those core details. We've also got the director's meeting minutes, which basically lists that one out with the one signing line. But as we did touch on just before, if you want to make any adjustments, check out the options button. If you want to change any of those minutes over to a resolution, you can simply choose to hit resolution, hit save, and now when we take a look at it, this will actually have a signing line for all the directors as such. And of course, if you've just got it listed as a minute but need to change that over to a different person to sign off on it, you've always got that option available as well. Now, as discussed, you can toggle on the additional or turn off any additional documents you do or do not wish to include. So all you'll need to do is just use those toggles to do that, and you'll be able to set that as you wish. Now in this case, once you're happy with everything, and I'm pretty set with all of that there, all you'll need to do is choose to send it off or download, exactly like we did with the annual return process. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose to download the documents this time. And we've now got a little notification advising us, hey, all your documents are here and have been downloaded, and I can access them just like that. Maybe I'm going to choose to print them off and pass them off to our client who's in the office with me at the time. But coming back to our director screen there, straight off the bat, you can see there is the Livecheck that's kicked in advising, hey, you do have this director not existing in company's office just yet. Once you've gone ahead and filed that through via the document screen or internal document screen, that'll then update and will show as passed. So it's a nice little guard around the fact that it'll remind you if you've started something and then got into a crazy busy day and had to step away from the computer, that there's actually still something you're needing to action or ensure you finish actioning it, as maybe you've been waiting on getting the signed documents back or whatever it may look like. Now let's go ahead and check out a different type of transaction that you might end up doing yourself, and that's how you can go about resigning a company director. So let's say maybe this time around Clifford is going to be retiring and he's advised, hey, I'm going to resign from this company as a director. Please go ahead and process those changes for me. All you'll need to do is go ahead and choose status, change that over to resigned. There are a few other options, as you can see. And it is automatically going to choose today's date as mentioned. You can go ahead and hit that tick box. This will then turn on the print toggle, and once again we can prepare forms for this transaction for this. Now I'm not gonna dwell on this one for too long because it's basically the exact same process that we saw earlier. The only thing to note is, of course, the register of officers or directors and the company change summary, as well as all your supporting documents for this, will now reference that particular change. So previously, when we did the director appointment for my contact, I was mentioning company officer or director appointments. It's now going to mention cesations instead. So it will always update and reflect based on the type of transaction you're doing, which is great. And when we take a look at the director's register, we can now see that it's got the cessation date applied as well. Now I'm just going to jump out of this screen here, and let's say maybe we actually want to adjust this cessation date here. Maybe Clifford's come back to you and said, sorry, there's actually a few more things I need to wrap up. I'm not actually going to be looking at resigning from the company until next week, or whatever date it may be. What you want to do is hit that little options or three dots there, choose edit, and you can always adjust that out as needed. So maybe he's not resigning until next Friday. Fantastic. Select that date. Fortunately, it's got some missing details, so I won't be able to fully finish this process. But once you hit save, that'll then go ahead and update that one as needed. Another easy option is the same with the appointment date of a director. Maybe my contact here isn't actually going to be appointed until, as mentioned, next Friday. You can push that out as needed, hit save, and this time round, that'll turn the print toggle on, and when we take a look at the forms, it'll actually push that out to the new date we've selected. So if you need to re-prepare those documents or anything as such, that will now be updated to reflect that new date change as needed. As we can see, the date of appointment is now the 20th. And looking at the register, this will be the exact same too, reflecting the new appointment date. So really nice and easy if you are needing to make any changes and you need to re-prepare any of those documents to have the correctly listed dates. And of course, if there's any other adjustments you might want to make, you can always choose to check that out further. Now that's basically how you can go about processing different director changes within a company itself. What we're going to go ahead and check out next is how you can go about processing shareholder changes and transactions. So we can see that we've got that little live pass that has advised, yep, all lines up. This is exactly what we can see up on company's office. These shareholder balances are exactly the same with what we've managed to find up there. Now, if there are any transactions you are looking to do, once again, you'll just want to use that little transaction button. Choose the type of transaction you're looking to do. And in today's example, I'm going to be looking to do a share issue to kick that off with. Select that option there. And basically, input the information, and make your way through this as listed in each of these steps. So maybe I'm going to be looking at doing a share issue to, once again, my own contact. Now, CAS 360 will basically pull up with all the contacts you've got in your database, but if they are a new contact you haven't already got there, you can go ahead and set them up as a new contact. And once you hit save, they will be there for you moving forward to use. Now, if there is going to be a beneficial owner, you will have the option to toggle that on and then go ahead and pick the beneficial owner that would be needed. If not, just leave that turned off and keep moving through this. Do have the option to choose the share type. The current share types I've got on this one is the $1 ordinary shares, but do know you can actually go ahead and type in the word shares, and we've got a range of other options available there for you to use, both in different currencies, different amounts, and a whole bunch of other options as such. But if you need, you can always set up a new share type by hitting that Add New Share button. Select the share class that should be applied, the description for this, the currency and the amount paid or unpaid, and hit save, and that will then be there for that company moving forward to be used. In this case though, I'm going to keep it nice and simple and just continue to run the $1 ordinary shares. Select the amount of shares that are being issued. Let's go ahead and chuck in a random number. You are able to set up the consideration type as well. If there is a premium paid per share or unpaid, you can also enter that in as well. Now, the meeting status is just essentially setting whether that shareholder is a attendee in the meeting minutes and such. It's largely for your supporting documents, but it's completely up to you how you wish to set that up. If there's any notes you want to add in, you've always got the option to do so. And once done, hit save. Now we've added that in, we can see that that's been added to our shareholder screen. Print toggle's been turned on, and we can go ahead and prepare forms for that transaction as such. But what is also really nice is on the left-hand side, you do get this nice little visual pie graph that also updates in live time. So this has gone from 20 shares to now a total of 30. And we also get that little breakdown and percentages as to our shareholders and how many shares they hold. And if you did set up any other additional share types, you can choose to filter in between those shares as such. Now let's go ahead and check out what some of the documents for this would look like. Simply hitting that prepare forms button, we can see we've got shareholders minutes that would be generated alongside the likes of a shareholders consent, the share certificate, as well as directors minute, issued journal, bit of a tongue twister, issued journal, as well as the likes of the register of shareholders and a company change summary. If we take a look at the register of shareholders, this is once again updated in live time with any changes we add in, similar to that of the directors register. And in this case, we can see I've got the share issue that's now been added in with all those details and the date as such. Company change summary will also reflect the type of change we've added. In this case, it's shown us the previous number of shares, including now the new total in addition of the shares we've added in. And of course, the shareholding details. I won't run through each and every single one of these here, but a few of the key ones that we do get a lot of feedback around and firms do find very helpful and positive is the likes of the shareholder consent form, the share certificate, and of course the application for share document. They do all have signing lines, which is fantastic, and it does obviously make sure that your client or new shareholder is across the changes taking place, and depending on your firm's internal processes, you may wish for these to be signed off anytime a particular type of share transaction is completed, or you wish for any other types of sign-offs to also be involved with said process. As per usual, once you're happy with everything, you either download that or send it off, and then that'll make its way out to the client. Now let's go ahead and check out another share transaction. Just going to turn off this print toggle, but do bear in mind you can actually stack share transactions. So maybe if I had also done this share transaction up here, we can now see that both of those share transactions would now be bundled, and it'll actually show whatever types of share transactions I've inputted. But let's run through another scenario. Maybe we want to do a share transfer. For that, once again, choose your transaction type, select that option there, and now we can basically go about doing a share transfer from a particular contact. Maybe I'm going to choose Alexia this time, and she's going to transfer those shares over to my own contact. Now you do have that beneficial owner toggle once again available there to be used if it needs to be involved. But let's say maybe off the top of my head, I think Alexia told me it was going to be a share transfer of 10 shares. I can go ahead and input 10. Once again, we do have a wonderful little guardrail in place that's going to let you know, hang on, there's actually only 7 shares that Alexia holds. You go back, check that email, and it actually advises it was 5, and you've just actually doubled it. Now when we input that number, it is going to be able to be processed, as we are also able to see the total number of shares held by Alexia as listed up here. And of course, if there's any other details, you always have that option to add them in. Now, I'll just touch on the certificate details because this is really nifty in the fact that it's basically going to be consecutively updated as you go about adding in share transactions. So we did that share issue earlier. That'll be certificate number 1. Because this is the share transfer from Alexia to my own contact for the transferor, that'll be listed as certificate number 2. And for the transferee, that's now listed as certificate number 3. So this will consecutively basically keep going on, and if you actually change those numbers, it'll just pick it up from there. And once you're happy with everything, you can hit save. Once again, we can now see that this has been added in, but this time around you can see the transfer out from Alexia and the share transfer to my own contact. So Alexia's lost 5 shares, I've gained 5 shares, and what we'll also notice is the left-hand side is now updated, including my contact now holding a total of 50% of the shares, which makes sense, 15 out of 30, all lines up, and Alexia's dropping. As always, we can now prepare the forms for this transaction. I won't run over this too much because we are now hopefully getting familiar with the types of processes and options we do have, but once again, it is going to change depending on the type of transaction you're doing. So this time round, we have a share transfer form, a waiver of preemptive rights, and all the supporting documents will now reference a share transfer as opposed to a share issue like we saw previously. So here's our share transfer form. We can see we've got a signing area for Alexia alongside my own contact and the details of the share transfer that's taking place. Same with the share certificate. And we can see it's got that certificate number 3 and 4 or 2 as listed. Oh, that's the balance, sorry. 2 and 3 is correct. And of course, a nice little signing line for the director to sign off on. And our waiver of preemptive rights. Now, what I would like to point out is you can actually set up document reminders. So maybe if you're needing to get this back within a certain time frame and you want to make sure that instead of you needing to follow up with that particular client, what you will be able to do is actually go ahead and set up document reminders. I'll just adjust this quickly. So what you'll need to do is just hit the arrow next to send all, and you'll be able to see this option which says send all and set up automatic document reminders. You go ahead and hit that option. Just bear with me for a moment. Turn off digital signing because I've got that turned on, but I haven't actually got anything listed to sign off on. And now when you do turn off digital signing, you will notice that you'll get the emails populated in here because it's not fixed to said particular person to sign off on a document via that digital signing workflow. But basically, once we're happy, use that option. We will see that preview of the email as we have every time we hit the send all option. But this time round, what we'll have pop up is our option to set up automated document reminders. So you can actually set up to about 6 different reminders if you really want to make sure that this is obviously going to get back to you, or have them paced out throughout the month. If you only want to, let's say, set up a couple, you can always choose to remove those by deleting them. But what is fantastic about this is basically the first reminder will be sent out a day later, and you can set what time that's sent out, including what email template is used to follow up with on that one, and who it's going to be making its way out to. Now, you do see this little toggle down the bottom which allows you to attach the documents, which I always suggest you toggle on, because it just means that instead of your client receiving an email saying, hey, we've sent you documents, please sign these and get these back to us, it'll say, hey, here are the documents you're yet to sign, please find these here for you, and they're more likely to action that and won't need to go digging through their inbox to find those documents previously, and it's hopefully just going to make life a whole lot easier for the firm and your own clients. Now, if we take a look at the second reminder, we can see that this has been paced out a further 3 days from the initial send-off date. But if you want to adjust this, you always do have the ability to do so. And each time you add in another reminder, it basically just adds on an additional 3 days. Basically, once that's all set, you can go ahead and hit save. And don't forget, maybe if it makes its way to the third or fourth reminder or your later reminders, you can always set up a more urgent email templates so that as the time processes through, it actually becomes more urgent as listed in the emails. Now, that's our automated document reminder option that we do have available there. I'm actually going to run through one final share transaction and then I'll show you another feature we have available as well. So let's go ahead and do a share issue for a joint member this time round. So selecting share issue, we can then go ahead and select our joint member. In this case, it's going to be Alexia and myself. Once again, you've got the beneficial owner toggle if you did want to have that applied. Otherwise, just like before, we're just going to keep making our way through the information. And as we'll see, certificate detail is now updated to certificate number 4. Nice and clever. Basically, once that has now been applied, hit save. We can see that transaction's been added in, our pie graph has been updated, and we can prepare the forms for this. Now, I'm not going to run over the documents this time, as we're probably quite familiar with what these share issue documents and surrounding items do look like. But what I would love to point out is maybe if you've got a new staff member, and this isn't limited to just this transaction, I'm just going to reference it with this transaction, who is preparing a type of transaction and you wish for these documents to be reviewed before making their way out to the client. What you do have is this little toggle down the bottom which says flag documents to be reviewed. If you turn that on, you'll then be able to input the reviewer's email. Maybe it's a work colleague, maybe it's a manager, maybe it's the practice manager, or whoever it may be. Could even be a CAS 360 guru. You can select their email or type their email in, select them, and then this time round, when you hit send all, you'll still see the preview of the document that is, or email that is going to make its way out to said client, but it'll actually make its way out to the reviewer before it actually goes out to the client. Sorry, I just had to once again play with my settings there quickly. But I've added in that reviewer, toggle that option on. We'll go ahead and hit send all. Once again, that's the preview of the email we were just mentioning that the client would receive once it's been approved. But let's go ahead and hit send. And I'll actually quickly just show you what that would look like. Now that has been sent off, as mentioned, just give that a wee refresh. What will end up happening is to the user that has been sent off to. Seems my internet's taking a little bit of time this morning, so just give that a moment. Fantastic. That'll basically come through to an area such as this for that particular user underneath the document review section. Now, I have sent it off to a separate user to myself, so unfortunately I won't be able to show you the exact one we sent off, but there will basically be a little red notification next to the document screen. That will also be notified in the notifications tab, and they'll also receive an email that they've got a document to be reviewed, and basically they'll have the option to review said document, including the documents you've enabled during the document production stage, and they can choose to either reject or accept it depending on how that looks. Maybe you've forgotten a particular document you like to include, they can reject it, include the notes, and then that'll make its way back and not be sent out to the client. If everything looks good and it's all able to be sent out, they can choose to accept it, and then that will then make its way out to the clients with those documents. And that's what this final result will look like when something's been rejected or accepted. Wonderful. So that's basically the likes of your shareholders, directors, as well as the annual return workflow. What we'll now go ahead and do is maybe take a 10-minute tea break. Go ahead and stretch your legs, grab some water, do whatever it is that you need to do. And we'll say, I am running a little bit early, so we'll say we'll meet back here at about 10:55ish, get an extra 3 minutes. How lucky. And I very much look forward to catching up with you then. That was kicking off again at 10:55. Till then, have a good break. Wonderful. Hope everybody had a lovely little break there. We'll be getting back into it just shortly. So I'm just going to jump back over to my CAS 360 screen. Now, what we're going to go ahead and check out next is actually our multiple changes screen. So this is a fantastic function within CAS 360. If you're not already utilizing it, I'd highly suggest you do so. And hopefully the next few transactions I run through will show you exactly how beneficial this can be in terms of saving time, taking the guesswork out of a whole lot of large transactions that might affect multiple companies. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check that out. So all you'll need to do to access this is use that multiple changes button on the left hand side. Go ahead and select new change. Now the first type of change we're going to be looking at doing is a director appointment. So let's go ahead and select officer or director change. From within here, you can go ahead and select your contact. Just going to work with my one once again. And we can go ahead and choose that director position. Of course, you've got the date option available to be changed as well if you need. And we'll just proceed through. Now, what you will have the option to do is then go ahead and select the companies you would like to have it applied to. So let's go ahead and say that I would like to have it applied to maybe the likes of CAS 360 0004 once again. And from here, actually, you know what? We'll choose a few different ones this time. Let's say maybe it's Fireside Masters and a one for RMW Limited. We'll go ahead and mix it up. Once you're done, just go ahead and select Proceed. Now, what this will allow you to do is have CAS 360 prepare forms for both of those companies all at the click of a few buttons. So you're not going to need to go directly into the companies. You can also do this from the multiple changes screen. As we can see here, we're able to then go ahead and prepare our forms for this. Exactly the same process as we've seen earlier. But the great news is you can actually stack changes on top of each other. So, for example, we'll see this in our next few transactions, but maybe I'm also wanting to do a address change. So once again, we can select that new change option and we can go ahead and choose contact address. This time we'll go ahead and we'll pick a contact. Maybe I've got Alexia in mind. And then all we'll need to do is pop in the new address. And what is also really amazing about this is when it comes to these types of transactions, you've got a couple of toggles that allow you to pick that up for other contacts or companies where they have the same address. So this top option here allows you to also make this change if there's been any other companies where the address for service is the same as this current address that Alexia has. Obviously, a really helpful option if maybe this person alongside the business is moving into a different area. You'll be able to have that both updated, and if that's been found, it'll simply highlight it as such and you can choose to toggle that on. And down the bottom, we can see that that also can be applied where any other contacts have had the same address found. And in this case, we can see quite a few of them have been. If you want that to also be applied, simply turn that toggle on. And this is another great option that is commonly seen when maybe you've got a husband and wife running a company. They both obviously live at the same residential address. And so if one is shifting, it's highly likely that they both are. If it's not necessary though, you can always leave that turned off, and then that will only be applied to the one you're making the change for. In this example though, let's go ahead and select that and we'll hit proceed. This is going to let you know of any where no forms are required. Maybe these are just your internal contacts, or as we can see, I've got a couple of trusts listed in there. And now this has been added to our screen for Alexia, and it does also list what position they are, and it'll bundle it into any of your existing company changes that you've got going on. So for RMW Limited, I can see that Alexia Reid is actually a shareholder, and she's now been bundled into the company changes for that particular company. So not only have I got a director appointment taking place, I've also got the shareholder address update now also included. Now when we take a look at preparing the forms, and just bear with us, the internet is slowing down a little bit this morning. Busy down in the office. Just actually give it a quick refresh and that should hopefully help. Yeah, apologies everybody, just bear with me. The internet is very much not happy with me this morning, but that's all right. We should be back in just a jiffy. Fantastic. So as I was mentioning, let's go ahead and choose to prepare said forms. And now we can see we've got all the supporting documents as well as the required for the director appointment, Form 9. as well as any that relate to the address change that'll be taking place. So if we take a look and have a look at maybe our director's minutes as well as our company change summary, it's now going to update to reflect both changes. So we've got the director appointment taking place for my contact, and we've got the contact detail changes taking place for Alexia from previous address to our new address. Same applies for our director's minute. We've got the change of address taking place for Alexia, and we've also got the director appointment mentioned too. So it's really nice. You can basically stack up as many changes that might be applicable to that company or that week that's taking place in. And as you need, you can always update them and stack them on top of each other. So it's all bundled and able to be sent out all in the one go, which is fantastic. Now, just jumping out of here quickly, there is also the likes of being able to prepare and do company address changes. So let's go ahead and select new change. And maybe this time I want to update the address for service for a particular company. Maybe I want to update that for, let's say, CAS 360 Maybe it's going to be moving from that address to a new address. Now, what you would actually see is you're not actually able to have that resolution date prior to 5 days in the future. So CAS 360 will automatically push this 5 working days into the future. If needed, you can also push this further. So if you need it to take place maybe at the end of the month, you are able to do so. Just bear in mind, you wouldn't be able to set that any closer. And see, I've tried to proceed and set that before. Do get that little warning taking place, and it's saying, hey, does have to be pushed forward at least 5 days into the future. Now, we do have a couple of those toggles that we saw earlier with the likes of the contact address update, but with the company address change this time, what you are able to do is maybe you'd like to update some other company addresses. Maybe the communication and meeting address need to be updated too. Or maybe you want to update any other companies where that address with service is also listed as being the same. As we can see here, there's actually RMW Limited that has the same address with service. If I want to include that, we can simply have that toggle turned on. If there are any other contacts with the same address, once again, it will then be highlighted as such. But in this case, we can see that nothing else has been. Once done, go ahead and hit proceed. And once again, we can see that this has been bundled into the change for RMW Limited. So we've got all 3 of those changes now taking place and prepared in the one document pack. If we take a look at the forms this time around, we will see we've got all 3 of those changes. And for example, if we take a look at the company change summary, we've got that director appointment, the change in company contact or Alexia's address update, as well as the company address all being updated now too, or noted, I should say. So this is really nice to obviously have bundled together because it saves you having to constantly set up the same documents or have multiple documents for all these different types of transactions when it can all simply be reflected on the one document as necessary. Now, that's not just it. There is actually another really clever feature about this, and that is the fact that you can actually include previous changes that you might have started but were yet to actually action further. So basically here we can see that we've got this little change selected to print, and here I can actually see that there was a share transfer I had set up earlier this week, but I've actually yet to action it any further. So that means I've gone ahead, I've added a share transaction, and it's then gotten to the prepare form stage, but I haven't opted to either download or send off those forms yet. Maybe I got a call, emergency meeting, whatever the scenario may be, and had to step back and then was sick the next day and I've only just gotten back to the office. CAS 360 is luckily remember that you haven't actually pushed this any further, and if I'd like to, I can choose to toggle that on and that share transfer will now also be included alongside this director appointment. So if we take a look at the forms for this now, we can see we've got both of those transactions involved. And if we take a look at the company change summary, it's once again referencing the director appointment, as well as our shareholding change that we had prepared earlier. Super clever, really going to be helpful in making sure you haven't missed any steps that you might have started and got swept away with through a busy day. And of course, this is also then going to include the additional documents that support the other transaction. In this case, we now have the share transfer documents also involved. So we've got the share transfer journal, the shareholder minute will now also reflect both changes, and of course, the other share certificates around this document type. Quick look at the shareholder minute, and we'll be able to see it's got both of those transactions taking place. Fantastic. So that's basically multiple company changes or multiple changes, hopefully explained a little bit further for you to utilize moving forward. But as you can see, there's a lot of use cases you'll be able to use for this. And this is very helpful if you're obviously needing to process bulk changes or something along the lines of that, as it's going to make life a lot easier, but it will also pick up things to ensure that it's being actioned across all the necessary places. So address changes obviously need to be updated across all the companies a particular person's attached to, not just the one that they've informed you about, or let's say they've informed you about 2, but they're actually listed across another 3, or whatever the scenario may look like. It's definitely going to make life much, much straightforward, and hope this helps. Now, let's move on to our next section of today's session. That's going to be the document screen. So we'll just go ahead and check out that one there. So I did touch on this a little bit earlier, but I will spend a bit more time on this to show you all the options that are available and sort of the functions that you do have there. Basically, you've got all the core details and transactions that you've prepared within CAS 360 on this screen here. As we can see, the companies and the types of transactions that we are preparing, as well as the status for that one there, and what that might be currently at or needing further actioning for. But you can also use our alert filters on the left-hand side to filter this down. So maybe if you're looking at filing a whole bunch of annual returns and focusing in on that, you can select annual return, and that's only then going to show you the annual returns. Maybe we are wanting to check out if there are documents that have been sent to clients but still require signing. And this will be quite good because you can actually send one-off document reminders if you need, or set up an automated one if you haven't already done so. So speaking of, let's go ahead and check out all our documents because I've got a couple of examples I'd like to run through with you there. And as mentioned, maybe we're wanting to send off a document reminder. So I've got a director appointment for Fireside Masters. I believe it's this one here. It's this top one to Ringo. Fantastic. So we can see it's been sent to the client and we're yet to get anything back, and maybe we want to action this in a timely manner. What you do have the option to do is hit the options button or the small 3 dots, and you can choose to actually send off a single document reminder, or even go ahead and add in automatic document reminders. Adding in the automatic document reminders brings us back to that familiar screen we were looking at earlier, where you can set up to 6 reminders. Or if you wish, you can even go ahead and send off just the single document reminder. And in this case, once again, I'd always suggest you toggle this on to ensure that you attach the documents to that email reminder so they don't have to dig through their inbox. You will be able to see which email template you want to use, and of course, who the recipients are for this as well. Now, please note that our SMS options are not currently available, but it is something we're looking at bringing back in the near future. Once you're happy with everything, hit send, and that'll then make its way out to gently nudge the client to get that back to you, hopefully sooner than later. Now, following that, maybe we need to go ahead and update a document status. So I've got this company address here where a client has informed me that they need to update the address or communication. So we've gone ahead and prepared the forms, sent that one off to them to sign off on before you go ahead and make that change. Maybe it's part of the internal process that you would like that to be signed off before you action it if the firm is going to be doing that type of change. But maybe you've actually then got a mismatch earlier today and you can see it's already been updated. You confirm with the client and they advise you that, yeah, they didn't have access to whatever it may be, and they've actually just gone ahead and done this themselves. And in that case, you might want to change their status over to something else to reflect that this doesn't need actioning any further, and you don't actually send off any document reminders too. So in that case, you can actually click on the status, and from here, you'll be able to see you've got a range of them, but maybe you want to update that to manually filed or whatever else the status that might reflect for that as such. Once you're done, just hit save. From here, we can now see that this has been updated and we know that we don't need to action anything further for this one. Now, if you also want to view the document history, you can also choose to use the little options button on any of the transactions, and you've got the option to view the history. So on this one here, if you did see that something had been manually filed and you wanted to check out maybe who had actioned that or when this had been changed over, you will be able to see the exact history of the document transactions as such. So we can see who it was prepared by, in this case myself, when it was sent out, and then who had also updated it to be manually filed, or whatever else it may be that the status reflects. Now, what I'm going to touch on next is basically how you can go about attaching an external file to a document or to this set of documents. If you need, you can always use that options button once again. You can use the attachment section, and from within here, you can drag and drop in anything that might be of in relation to this. So maybe you'd send off an annual return alongside an annual return invoice. They've then paid that and sent you back a paid copy of the invoice. You can always attach that as needed so that all those documents are all bundled in the one place. Now, what I'm going to be looking at running over next is basically the process of uploading and attaching particular signed documents. This is largely for processes such as director appointments or company incorporations. Now, the fantastic news is when you do use the likes of digital signing, alongside our fresh facelift we had added to CAS 360 earlier this year, we've actually now added in automatic uploading for digital signing integrations. So for this one here, I've got a director appointment for Ronald Lopez. We can see that the Form 9 has already been uploaded in. So as soon as it's been signed and it's come back, that status will update and we'll see that it'll get automatically uploaded into here. Now, if you are using non-digital signing or documents are being manually signed, what you will see is it will end up showing a upload button such as this here for you in order for you to upload the required Form 9 in order to lodge that through to company's office. As mentioned previously, it is one of the forms that is needed to be submitted for this particular type of transaction. But I'll just use my signed one for the example so that you can actually see what you would maybe want to do if you did end up getting the signed copy back and you've then gone ahead and uploaded those documents into that transaction, but you need to isolate that Form 9 so that you can upload it to be submitted. Now I'm just going to use my digital signing copies here that I've got. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit View File. If you've maybe got this manually signed, maybe you've gone ahead and bulk dropped all of the signed documents in here, you can then go ahead and hit View File. From within here, I can see that I've got quite a few documents that have been sent out, and we've got the register that we may be sent through as well, but we can see that we've got the directors meeting minutes that have been signed, but I only actually need to isolate this one here in order to submit it through to Company's Office, and I don't need any of the other ones to be submitted. So if you do need to isolate just purely this document here, for example, you're not using digital signing, all you need to do is hit the print button in the top right hand corner. Now you'll be able to change the destination over from what I imagine you've probably got it selected as to be hooked up to a printer. Change that over to save as PDF. Then from what you'll be able to do is change pages to customized. And if you're not sure which one it was on, you can always scroll down and you'll get this number to reference the page number. We can see it's page number 3. So let's scroll back up just to see how it cuts that down. We can input number 3, and this is just to cut it back down to just page number 3 or Form 9, and we can hit Save. And that will then allow us to save us a copy of just the Form 9. We can then come back to our main screen, and using that director appointment example, we can then go ahead and upload and drag and drop that signed Form 9 in. We can then hit Save, and this has now been uploaded in, and we can go ahead and lodge that as such. So either way, it's going to be really easy to do so. Obviously, with digital signing, it's even faster, which is fantastic. And with that recent release and update from the team there, it is now even smoother for yourself to be able to file things when using digital signing. But even if you're not, it's really easy to isolate a document, as you saw there, regardless of if you sent out 5 or 10 documents all out at the same time, and you've got a mix of signed and non-signed documents. But that is basically everything I'll be looking to run through on the documents screen there. It is a really nice and straightforward option. And if you are just looking to focus in on the documents for a particular company, you can also access the internal company document screen within a company itself. You've got that document screen there too, which just solely shows you transactions for that one company. And you can lodge from here as well. So both places will work. It's just if you want an overview of only what's in that company, or if you're happy to view all the transactions, you've got your documents, global document screen too. So the next area I'll be looking at running over is our wonderful trust module. So that's second to the top on the left there. If you're not already utilizing the trust functions, I'd highly suggest you do, because it is a completely free add-on that we have available for you to utilize. So that's exactly right. If you're only managing 100 companies, but you've got 1,000 trusts, it's not going to have any change on your subscription pricing, and is there and available for you to make the most of, with once again CAS 360 generating supporting documents, but it also has a compliance workflow available for trust too, just like that for our companies, which we'll go through a little bit later as well. Now, once again, if you aren't making the most of this and you want to get your trusts in here, we've made this super straightforward. What you'll see in the top left corner is the trust import template. Basically, you can go ahead and download that one there. You then get this nifty little Excel sheet, which you can then complete. And we do also list out all the instructions to help with this as well. So just let that one load up. Wonderful. So here we've got our core instructions that the team need in order for them to be able to set this up for you. And then you've got your different tabs in order for the information to be inputted in. So you can complete the trust information if you want to add any trust beneficiaries, unit holders, or additional relationships. You can simply list all those ones in there, and with all the areas as highlighted in red is required. But basically, once you've done that, you can either get in touch with myself or let our support team know via the live chat option. And they will then go about importing all that information into your trust screen for you. So then you'll have something nice and pretty like this option I've got here, allowing you to work on trust transactions moving forward. Now, checking out the left-hand side a little further as well, if you did want to focus in on maybe just your family trusts or your charitable trusts, you do have the option to do so. And we do have the compliance alert that's also available, so you can just focus in on anything that might need actioning there. And here we can see I've got a notification for the compliance review that is due at the end of the month that I've enabled previously. Now, if you are wanting to basically go ahead and add a new trust or manually add a trust yourself, you can do so. You are able to use that trust or add trust button and you hit that add new trust. From here, you'll just simply want to complete all the information, but bear in mind the trust does need to be set up as a contact, being prior to set up as a trust itself. So this means that if you haven't already got that one set up, it'll simply just show up as can't find the contact, but then you'll be able to go ahead and set that up as a new trust contact, and then you'll be able to set that up as a trust within your trust screen moving forward. So really nice and straightforward, nothing too crazy, and it does automatically let you set up the trustee included straight off the bat. So if it's a corporate trustee that's managed in CAS 360, you can go ahead and search for that and you'll see that appear. If it's going to be an individual, you can toggle that off and search for your contact and they will appear. If you're a new contact though, once again, you can set them up straight off the bat without leaving this main screen. And once you're happy and set up with everything, you can hit save and that'll be there for you moving forward. This case though, I do already have a trust I've set up previously that I'll be working with, and that is our Juniper Farm Family Trust. Let's go ahead and click into that and check that out. So you've got your core trust details listed on this first screen here, but you do also have a few additional tabs. I won't be running through every single one of them, but just the core ones today, such as the relationship and some of the others. So with our relationship tab here, we can see I've already got a trustee added in, my own contact as such. But if you want to maybe add in any further relationships, we can see we've got a range of additional options. And maybe I want to go ahead and add in the accountant for today's example. We can go ahead and search for our contact, set that date as needed, and hit save. Once done, this will now be added in, and just like all other workflows that we've ran through today, the print toggle will be turned on and we can prepare forms for this. Now, we're obviously not going to be filing this through to Companies Office, but it is definitely a value add in the fact of you'll be able to share these documents with your client, provide any necessary paperwork that ensures that you're obviously providing in line with services, and just really allows you to share a whole bunch of extra information with your client without actually having to go through a whole lot of effort and spend hours and hours typing out different documents, bouncing between Word and anything else that you might need to source this information. And here we can see we've got a few different documents included. So we do have a register of trust events, which we'll check out after this, but we can also see there's the register of trust relationships. So this is obviously a Kiwi one we would like to maybe have involved, and we can see that the accountant has now been added in, or BGL has been added in as an accountant as of today's date. So any further changes we make will then go ahead and update this register, including cesations or new additions. With our trustee minute, this will also reflect the change that we've just added in. And because it is a minute, you can, or it's currently a resolution, I should say, sorry, but you can choose to bounce this between a minute or resolution as we saw. And of course, in this case, it's advising that, hey, this new accountant has been added in, and there is a signing line, in this case for the sole trustee of the trust to sign off on. As always, you can then go ahead and choose to download it or share it with your client by hitting Send All. Really nice and easy to add in your relationships, as you can see, and if necessary, you can filter via current or all. All will just show if you've got any previous ones. So let's just say I quickly change this over. Maybe that took place. Yeah, we'll just keep it as is. So now if I view current, we can now see it's only got the current relationships. If I view all, I'll be able to see any past or previous ones that were involved. And that is basically the same way as to how you can print your current register versus your historical register. Now, what I'm going to jump into next is our event screen, but as you can see, you've got a few wonderful other options available, including beneficiaries and administration or general information you may wish to add in. But I'm going to focus a little bit on the event screen here because it is a really nice section of the trust module. And I've got a few prior transactions I've already got in there to give you a bit of an idea as to what that looks like and how it feels. So I've inputted in a range of different transactions, from income to loans to repayments of the loan, as well as transactions for expenses. But what you do get straight off the bat is not only can you see the amounts for that, but you get these nice totals up along the top that will give you an instant snapshot of, let's say, the total liabilities this trust has or the total amount of expenses there are. On top of that, you can also choose to filter the transactions. So maybe we just wanted to see what had happened in the first couple of months of 2025 or the first month of 2025. Filter that down as such. If you want to reset it, that'll help show everything. Same applies if you want to use the filters to just show the liabilities of outstanding or paid, and so on. Now, you do have the option to use a detailed view as well, or the transaction view, depending on basically maybe how much information you've got in there or how much detail you want to see. Obviously, the detailed view does show us a whole lot more, including the notes I've added. So this will be quite helpful if you want to drill down to exactly what is what. But let's go ahead and add in a new trust event. So simply hitting the plus button up the top, you've got a range of different options there available to you. Now, it is nice and clever because if you haven't actually added in a loan to the trust, you simply won't be able to do a repayment of a loan, because how is it you're repaying a loan that it hasn't been recorded? So naturally, you'll first need to add a loan. Once you've done that, you can then do repayments. And the same goes with an asset sale. If there is no asset acquisition that's already been added in, you wouldn't actually be able to do the asset sale or disposal. In this case, let's check out the asset acquisition. So let's say that maybe the Juniper Farm Family Trust is acquiring a new farmhouse property, for example. Go ahead and input the amount. And of course, we can select the details of how it was acquired as well. So maybe it was purchased by the trust, add in any notes. Very legitimate notes, as we can see. Hit save once done. And this has now been added in alongside the rest of the transactions I've got there, and it's highlighted exactly as how I've put it. Now we can see the print toggle is turned on. We can go ahead and prepare forms for this, and we've got those same documents now available. But let's go ahead and check out the Register of Trust events. That breaks it all down of all the transactions we can see on our main screen. But you do also get the totals down the bottom showing as well. This is now increased with the $1 million asset or the farmhouse property purchase. And of course, we can see that the farmhouse property has been added as well. If we take a look at the trustee resolution, we will now see that this reflects the transaction we've done. As always, it's going to update depending on anything we've added. Nice and straightforward. Fantastic. So that's basically our trust screen and trust modules in a bit of a nutshell. Do hope this has been a valuable key insight if you're not already using it, because it is a really fantastic little extra add-on, and we'd love for you to make the most of it. Now, what we'll go ahead and check out next is our report screen. So we did pop in here a little bit earlier towards the start of the webinar, but I'd love to also just show you a few of our other great reports that are available there for you to use. Firstly, we'll check out some of the options underneath the company report, such as the company's listing report. Once again, you can choose what companies you would like to have it applied to. You can even go ahead and set the filters of what you might be wanting that to show, or the companies that would be involved amongst that, whatever it may look like for you. You can choose to customize the report settings. Maybe you do want to see the manager, maybe you don't want to see the billing contact, whatever it may look like. Maybe we don't want to see the labels, or whatever it is. And once you're happy with everything there, you can generate this wee report. I'll just pop that out as a PDF. And here we've got a nice little report letting us know of our companies that take place between said dates, and of course the company statuses and general information for this, as well as their last annual return filed date. So it's just a nifty little report that you can access at any time. Maybe you wanted to see all the companies of which a particular partner was attached to, or whatever else it may be. Next report I'm going to be delving into is our company report. So the company listing report is sort of a general overview of all companies. The company report itself is basically a direct snapshot of the particular company you have selected. So let's say I want to check out this for the likes of Fireside Masters and CAS 360 Limited. Once again, you can go ahead and adjust which companies you're going to be viewing by using the report filters. Maybe you don't want to see any of the removed ones. Maybe you don't want to see any other options except just your registered companies. That'll go ahead and adjust your companies available for it. Of course, you can customize what is shown using report settings once again. And once we're happy with all of that, you can export that out either as a PDF or Word document this time. And let's go ahead and view that one. So here we have our company report for CAS 360 Limited. It's going to give you all the key details of that company and everything you might have prepared for it or inputted for it. So we've got the core company details, addresses, any ultimate holding companies if one is attached, your directors, shareholders, and share amounts, including the ones we did earlier today there. Any issued capital, dividends, and trust details if also linked to any trusts as well. Now, down the very bottom, you do get this little document section, which is great. So you'll be able to see all the different documents you've prepared for that company, alongside what dates they were, what their status is. So I've had a lot of clients or firms use this as a proof of work, or along the lines of showing clients all the different transactions they've done for a client over the year. And this is a really nice, easy way to be able to share that or check over that yourself as well. If you keep going down though, that'll just bring us to our next one. Simply all that same wonderful information. And of course, the great news is we can always see any of those changes we've recently enacted as well. So it's always a nice little report to have on hand. Couple of other nice little utility reports I'm going to be showing you this time is the address usage report. So if you check out others, select address usage. Basically, it's going to let you show where a particular address is in use. So maybe I'll search for the example that I've been using quite a few times earlier today. Select that one there. You can do this for as many addresses you want though, of course. You just go ahead and search for it or scroll from your list. You can adjust the settings as per. Once done, export that out. Here, I now have a report that shows me exactly who and where this particular address is in use. And as we can see, we've got Alexia listed in there after we did that via the multiple changes section, or in the process of doing it in the multiple changes section. But you can also see it listed anywhere else and what type it's being used for. So for Ronald, it's his residential address. For Alexia and the joint member of Alexia, it's changing over to be their residential address. And for the trust, we know it's that meeting address. Another nice little nifty report. And if you're maybe working on cleaning up your database and you've got duplicate contacts, this is a really nice way to check if you've got any duplicate addresses. Simply just maybe pop in the keyword that might be applied, because I'm well aware of how many discrepancies there can be on Companies Office, as you might have one that says 123 Queen Street, 123 Main Queen Street, or whatever the scenario may be. You get my general gist. You'll be able to see all those variations just simply by popping in maybe Queen Street or searching for Queen Street, and you'll be able to see how many different options show up for that. So similar to this option here, we can see I've actually got two options for 13 Goldleaf Hill. One has the postcode, one doesn't have the postcode. Quite an obvious and common scenario that you might see up on Companies Office, because maybe it has been set up by different accounting firms, or it's been done by the individual and they've opted to include the postcode once and not the second time, or whatever other scenario it might look like. It's going to be a great little option. Now, the last report I'm going to be looking at going into is our people group report. So that's also listed underneath the other report options. Basically lets you see where a particular contact is in use. So instead of seeing where a particular address is in use, this is going to let you see where a particular contact is being used. In this case, I'll just use my own contact. And once again, you've got all the usual options to adjust it. And we'll go ahead and export that out as a PDF. Here we now have a report for my contact that's basically going to show me all the core details, address information, anywhere I am a shareholder or trustee and representative to. So relatively nice and straightforward, nothing too crazy to it, but it's really a nice report to be able to use if you're trying to check out the associations of a particular individual. And once again, you can also use this to track down if you've got duplicate contacts, if you need it, or you wanted to have a report on the side while you work through your contact screen. This will be a nice option as well. So that's most of the reports I want to delve into, but do go ahead and check those out further. It's also the same place you can check out all the registers. So if you wanted to quickly access and download the registers for multiple companies or multiple trusts, you've got all those wonderful options in there as well. Now let's go ahead and check out our settings screen for a bit. So I have mentioned the document templates and email templates throughout today's session. So I will also be quickly running through that and what that looks like too. So we'll kick off with the document templates first. Basically, this is where you can find all the different document templates that CAS 360 has on hand, and you can customize the look and feel of them as you see fit. And as we can see, there are a lot of different options. But if you've maybe got something in mind, you can go ahead and search for that. Maybe I'm wanting to set up a different annual return document. You can search for that and jump into that as needed. Now, any of the templates you've already added or have installed will be listed here, and we do always have our master or the standard option up the top there. But if you want to create a new one or customize it, you just simply hit the options, download, and that will then download this as a Word document for you to edit further. So similar to the other one I'd set up previously, we've got that branded copy where I'd added a nice little watermark to the background. I'd added or changed the font around. It is all there for you to be able to customize the look and feel of it as you need. Now, don't be put off because I do know that these strange text codes might seem a little unfamiliar to yourself, but honestly, it's nothing to panic about. It is basically all the text codes we use to auto-populate that document with all of the information that's going to be applicable to that company. So just remember, if there's any text codes where it might not be applicable, maybe some companies do have a Australian company directorship, maybe some don't. If that company doesn't, it's not actually going to populate with any of that information, and it'll simply be left out. So you don't need to worry about like, oh, I do need these text codes, I don't need those text codes. You can simply just basically go ahead and maybe if you wanted to add in any additional text at the top or drop in a logo or change the font, you will be able to do so, and you won't need to basically look at removing any information, but you can go ahead and customize the look and feel of it so that it's more aligned to the firm's branding or preferences as you see fit. Once you've made all your changes and you're done though, be sure to save that, and then you can upload that in, and that'll simply allow you to drag and drop that in as you see fit. Now you do also have the option as setting one as the default. If you would like to do that, you can just simply click that, and that will then be the one used moving forward. So if you're always basically switching over from the master to a new one you've added, don't forget you can set it as the default and you won't need to change that as needed. So that's basically document templates in a bit of a nutshell. We'll go ahead and check out the email templates next. So your email templates is a little bit similar. So maybe if we were looking at working on the annual return email template that is used, you can go ahead and select that or search for any of the other options you might be wishing to work on. One thing to note for our digital signing firms out there, or firms using digital signing, there is a digital signing annual return as well as a separate non-digital signing annual return. This is just because the workflow is different, and you will notice that there is the review documents button that's included in the digital signing option, but not in the non-digital signing option. So here we can see non-digital signing. If we take a look at the digital signing option though, we've got the review documents button, and that's basically how it connects into the digital signing process. But just quickly take a step back. Maybe we are looking at editing our digital signing templates. All you need to do is basically hit create new, and that'll add in a fresh new copy based off the master copy for you to then go ahead and edit. Once again, you've got email text codes that can be used, so you don't have to set up 1,000,001 email templates just to factor in the client's first name, and you won't need to do this yourself. This will auto-populate for you, and you've got a range of different text codes that you can add in the likes of your logos or change the font and ensure that it's basically a one-size-fits-all, but is populated to suit the particular company client's details you're going to be sending it to. Feel free to make your changes as necessary, and once you're done, just hit update, and that will then all be applied. Now, one thing I would love to point out is that with our text codes, you can actually use the text codes in the subject line. So here I've got a urgent one saying, this example would say final 2026 submission deadline for maybe RMW Limited annual return. And then we can see I've got a few additional text codes in the main thread there, highlighted in bold to make sure it's really being picked up on. But if you're not too sure of the text codes available, don't forget you can always head through to the New Zealand Help section and checking out the CAS 360 dictionary. This will give you both the document template codes and email template codes. So let's go ahead and check that out further. So for our email template codes, you can basically click into any of the options that you're looking to use that for, bearing in mind digital signing versus non-digital signing. If we take a look at our digital signing options, we can see we've got all these different text codes available. So maybe we want it to say the client last name. What's that going to populate with? Well, ironically, the client's last name, but it's also going to let you know where this information is pulled through from in CAS 360. So on this side, we can see where exactly it's coming from, what it is going to produce, and what that text code for you to use is as well. Basically the same with your document template codes. If we were, let's say, looking at customizing our annual return, for example, you've got all the different types of text codes, and it lets you know once again where it's drawn from, what it's going to display, and what that text code is. And as you can see, there's a lot of different options. But once again, if you've got any feedback or suggestions for text codes that you would like to see, feel free to let us know. Once again, smash that feedback button because the team is always looking at adding in any additional text codes, provided it is information within your CAS 360 database. So maybe if it was the likes of a particular address that you have within your company addresses screen, then you can simply let us know that you would like something that would be able to auto-populate that or similar as such. So that is going to be your email templates and document templates. Super straightforward, and basically you can just set and forget once you've got those all ready. And of course, if you need to make any changes, it's not going to be a complicated process to do so. What I will also like to point out is our email settings. So, a couple of options when it comes to this here. If your firm is wanting to use a particular firm email address, you do have the option to use that custom email address when sent out from CAS 360. Bear in mind, this is a separate service and is not set up by us, and this does include a one-off setup fee of around $500 using Amazon services as such, or through that as the ultimate provider. But if that is something you're interested in, you can do so, and then we do have that setup fee to allow that to work through CAS 360. But we do have some additional options which are completely free. So if this is toggled on, this will allow it to be when it's sent out, the sender name will reflect as the user's full name. If you're not too sure what the user's full name is, it's basically your name. As we can see here, it's going to be saying Ra Williams as the sender. It won't change the email it's coming from, so it'll still be that no reply CAS 360 email, but the sender field will obviously reflect who you are. If you want this to be something different, you can toggle that off. You can go ahead and type in what you would like that to say, and the sender name will instead reflect that instead. Now, what is also really helpful, and I hear a lot of firms making the most of, is setting up the reply to address. If you have this toggled on, it just means that when you've sent something out from CAS 360, which will come from the no reply CAS 360 email, clients can still go ahead and hit reply on that email, and it'll instead go back to the user who sent it out. So in my case, it would come back to me. Or if you'd like it to go to maybe a generic inbox, you can always turn that toggle off and set that up. Maybe it's going to an admin or whatever it may look like, and you can input that, and any replies coming off your transactions will come back to the listed email instead. Now, you've got a few other options, but I won't really touch on these too heavily. It's just about CCing and BCCing particular partner or manager contacts. It is quite selective. Just remember, any changes you make here, just be sure to hit save so it is applied moving forward. Wonderful. So that's a little bit more around our settings and templates as such. What I am going to look at running over next is our AML compliance workflow we've got available, and this will be the final section of today's webinar. So to access that compliance workflow, we'll simply want to head into one of our companies. Maybe I'm going to use this for CAS 360 004 Limited. Heading over to your compliance tab, which is listed on the very far right hand side. If this hasn't already been toggled on, you'll simply see it listed as such, and you can go ahead and choose to turn that on. Now with this, you'll basically just want to go through and input all the relevant information. So it kicks off with the start date and what date you'll end up completing this, or have completed this, the compliance officer that has completed this, and if you would like, you can add in any supporting documents, maybe to confirm who it was that did it or who has been nominated to do it. Once you're done, you can just basically hit the next button or click on that section to keep proceeding through. And from here, you can basically go ahead and add in the nature of business relationship or relationships if you've got multiple options you'd like to add. And we do have a drop down that allows you to select the most relevant option, add in any supporting documents, images, whatever it may be. And if need be, we do have a free text option if it is something outside of the usual scope of things, of course. And of course, some very legitimate text notes I've just added in as well. If there is an additional one you need, you can always hit X and that'll remove it as such. Now, just keep making my way through this, and this has then brought us to our source of funds section. If we've toggled this on, you've got the option to add in further information to support this. However, bearing in mind if we've toggled this on, you are required to input the information that helps show as to why this is required. And as we can see here, this is now highlighted in red now that I've removed the supporting text. If I add that back in, it will allow us to keep proceeding through the workflow. Now we've come to our individual section. So CAS 360 is really clever in the fact of it's going to automatically pull through with all your current directors and shareholders. And you will also get the little tags to show of that as well. So we've got Alexia, Barden, Clifford, and also myself, who we added in earlier today. And it will go ahead and show you their little tags as well. Now, what you can also do is actually have the individual workflow enabled. So if an individual requires a compliance and due diligence workflow to be enabled on them, you can turn that on. You can also go ahead and choose if you'd like to have if the pet check is required or maybe source of funds or not. And it's the same place where you'll be able to see any of the identification information you've added to them. Now, this is our compliance report as seen that I've just downloaded. And of course, the individuals we can see that are all available. And of course, if you've attached any identity documents, there is the little reference to this too. So for Barton, we've got a driver's license attached. And for myself, we also do too. Now, as we can see, we did toggle on the PEP check required alongside those notes that I'd added. And basically all the other notes that we've added in, including those custom ones, we added in at the last step. Fantastic. So that's basically the compliance workflow and the compliance report that is generated once you've completed that. Now, I did mention we do have a couple of identity verification tools on hand too. So I'll give you a bit of a idea as to what this looks like, how that process actually would look, and a little bit more. So I'm just going to use my contact here, but just before I do that, what you will see is you've got two options. Firstly, you've got request ID verification, which is basically if you don't have the ID and you would like to complete an identity verification, you can choose this option to send an email out to said client using BGL ID, and you can request for an ID verification. Or if you do have the identity document on hand, such as a driver's license or other option perhaps, you can choose to use verify identity. And from here, you are able to use either BGL ID, which is our very own internal tool, or CloudCheck for those of you that might have a CloudCheck subscription. Now, if you've already got a CloudCheck subscription set up, you'll just simply want to proceed through and make your way through using that select option. And it does give you a few options around this as well here. In today's example, I am just going to be using BGL ID, and we'll run through this request ID verification process. So I have already sent one out previously for my contact and it has failed, but just to give you the general gist and look and feel as to how this operates, we'll go ahead and run through that option. So let's say we want to go ahead and resend the ID verification. You can simply choose that, select BGL ID. Sorry team, just bear with me. My internet has been slowing down as we approach the final parts of today's webinar. Nonetheless, let's give that a further crack. Perfect. So I've now requested and looking to send that one out to said client. And we can also see if we've done any previously. It will also let us know. And I will just quickly check this out a little further. Just check if anything's come through just yet. Strange. Apologies, team. It does look like the test account is not too happy with me this morning. But hey, nonetheless, I was going to say I have worked through this in our previous webinars there. And if you are wanting to check out the BGL ID option a little further, don't forget we've always got our BGL ID help article. Basically, you've got a couple of different checks that can be completed, and that does start off with the standard check alongside the advanced and biometric check. So we'll just view that through here for now. The standard check does come in at $9 and the advanced and biometric option at $12. Now, the standard check does cover the government ID, anti-money laundering and global sanctions databases, whereas the advanced does also include the adverse news database. Now, the biometric scan obviously just ensures that the client takes a photo of themselves, and we will then compare the photo of themselves alongside their driver's license, alongside official sources, to make sure it all aligns and that that person is who they say they are, and their identity document in this case driver's licenses, do all confirm as official and correct information. Now, this is currently available for driver's licenses only. However, it is a very common document we see here in New Zealand, and we do have a lot of firms already picking this up and enjoying it, because the great news is it does only take a few minutes after your client has completed the verification process to come through. And I can actually go ahead and show you basically what a past contact would look like and what it would look like when it's failed. So if a failed one here, we can go ahead and use my contact itself. We can get this little identity verification report and hit view file. Just give that a bit of a refresh. Actually, I do have another contact in mind. We'll just jump out of here for now. And what I would also like to reference is the contact screen does also let you filter that down to any of those BGLID checks you've done too. So if you've got any pending, those that have been verified or failed, you can jump straight to them. And in this example, I've got this wonderful option of checking out Bart Simpson. And we can see here we've got the BGLID failed mark. And you can even hover across here to let you know where exactly it has failed as such. And of course, ironically, this is neither a real contact nor did we use real test data for this one as such. But if we go ahead and check that one out further by hitting edit, or of course you can just search for said contact and that'll also bring you straight to that contact. If we head underneath the identification section and other information, we will be able to see any of the other information we've inputted, but more importantly, for the verifications, we also do have our options on the left-hand side there. Now, checking out the compliance side of things, this is where you will find your report. And here we've got our identity verification report, which we can go ahead and view. Here we can see where the non-matching sources have been found. Ironically, no matching source was found for this particular made-up contact, and of course, what date and checks were completed. Now, I will actually also be able to show you what that would look like for a client where that has passed. I believe it's Mr. Lopez we've got. Fantastic. So heading back to our compliance section, we can then see we've got a past identity verification with that nice little green tick. Get that nice little radars marked as low, and of course we can see it's all passed. This is with some test data that actually did align with that particular client or test client, and we can see that we've got that nice little verification report referencing this as well and what sources have matched. If it was a biometrics check that was performed though, bear in mind this would also reference that information too. Fantastic. So that is basically a wrap for today's session. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all come along, and I do hope you have either walked away with a few new insights or a eagerness to try out some new features. And it has been my absolute pleasure to run you through 2026 First Essentials webinar. And once again, a big shout out to my panelists for attending today. We've had Kajal, who's one of our business development managers, and Shami, who is one of our CAS 360 product managers. But don't forget, if you have any further questions, this isn't goodbye forever. Feel free to flick me an email, give me a call. I'm always happy to assist if there's any other items you had in mind or wanted to run over myself. And of course, you're not alone within the software as well. Don't forget you've got all those wonderful support resources between the live chat, knowledge base, and the learning channel, and maybe this particular webinar too. And if there is anything else, do feel free to flick us a message, as I'm going to stick around for a few further minutes, let's say an additional 3 minutes or so. So if there is anything you want to ask about or check over, feel free to flick those questions through. But if you need to sit and ponder on it, don't worry, feel free to send me an email via rwilliams@bglcorp.co.nz or give me a bell. But once again, a big thank you for taking the time out of your day to join me, and I look forward to hopefully hearing about how much extra you're going to get out of the software moving forward from this.